Hello and good afternoon to all of you out there. Very happy to have all of you tuning in to our session here today. This is the first out of three sessions that MDEC is running together with Marketing Magazine. And we felt that it was a very opportune time to be talking about this area, which is digitalization in marketing, right? Um, so as we know that Hi, good afternoon again, and welcome to our first of three series session that MDEC is organizing together with the Marketing Magazine. I have to say thank you to Marketing Magazine for putting this together, and more importantly, to the three panelists, my colleagues that I have with me here today. Uh, Marketing technology is to some an alien word, and to others a savior for their business. And we felt that to bring all of us here together to have this open conversation about what marketing technology really means for businesses at this point of time, when a lot of us are facing some real critical challenges in terms of utilizing our resources, rather limited resources, and also to reach people out there who are not behaving in the usual sense. And consumer behaviors have changed tremendously. So marketing technology has also received a lot of investments over the past years. Not all of them have been very successful. Some of them have been successful, and there are very many reasons for this. So today, I have with me three eminent personalities, some good friends that I've known for years, and I would like to welcome them here today as we begin this session. Yeah, the first is Swathi Eashwer, who is a senior digital consultant from R3, who's really the rose among the thorns here today. Welcome, Swathi. Swathi heads the digital strategic consulting team at R3, and she is leading digital performance audits, competitive benchmarking, as well as MarTech and digital transformation for senior marketing leaders. Prior to R3, Swathi's broad range of experiences includes leading product development for enterprise subscription e-commerce model or platform in an ad tech startup. Next, I have with me Serm Teck Choon. Shouldn't be a name that you guys don't know. He is the former president of the MDEC and currently the CEO of Antsomi, a regional marketing technology company building the first artificial intelligence-enabled customer data platform, CDP 365 in Southeast Asia, which is empowering companies to unify and activate their consumer data. He was, previously the country head at Control Shift, you guys know that, and also the digital products head at Star Media Group. And finally, I have a long friend. We went to school together. Bala, Pomaleh, CEO of IPG Mediabrands. He looks much younger than I am, man, in a t-shirt. 29 years, 30 years in the industry. Bala is a rare breed of talent, cross-trained in multiple platforms. His focus as CEO of Mediabrands is on driving business performance and results while improving internal capabilities with a strong emphasis on investments in future spaces, technology, analytics, automation, and consulting. Welcome, panelists. How are you guys doing today?
Good, happy to be here.
Great, Swathi. Bala?
Great. Really happy to join this conversation.
Fantastic to have you as well here, Serm. Are you, if you can unmute yourself, that'll be great.
Hi everyone. I thought I'm not muted.
So I'd just like to start. It's been a different sort of year, and as we come to the end of this year, I just want to know from Swathi, perhaps, what new skills have you picked up? And I'm not talking work skills. Are you a gardener now? Are you what has happened?
Well, I did try cooking more, but I don't think my family really appreciated that very much. So I've shifted to less the intrusive stuff. So I've been reading a lot more this year. That's something I've really enjoyed. The more time that we have, And I'm currently reading Obama's latest book, The Promised Land. So it's good to have a little bit more time sometimes.
That's fantastic. And Serm, what have you been up to?
I mean, same as Swathi, I read a lot also throughout the last 6 to 9 months. But one thing I do pick up is that because we almost every month are on the lockdown mode and work from home, right? So we save a lot of time on traveling. So I do force myself to do some exercise, body stretching for at least 30 minutes every morning, just to get some sweat up. And I think that is one of my favorites at daily activity for the last 9 months.
That's very interesting. So flexibility, and
Yeah,
Bala, what
have
have you
to.
been up to?
I've been watching all 7 seasons of Star Trek Next Generation for I think the 3rd time. I love Picard's style of leadership, and I think there are a lot of things that you can pick up from watching the series.
That's
It's
fantastic.
old tech, but it's got a lot of relevance to what we do now as well.
You should write a book about it. You should write a book about it.
I'm a Star Wars fan, man. I know about Star Trek, man. Star Wars rocks, man. Hey, no, listen, guys, again, yeah. So this is an interesting topic. It could frighten some people, right? When we talk about marketing technology, especially, we're talking about SMEs, below 10, 15 people, you're turning around 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. And all you're thinking about right now is, how can I sell? How can I reach people? How can I expand my market or deepen, loyalty, within my business? So perhaps, Swathi, I can begin with you to see, what is your understanding, having worked with leaders in SMEs and all that? Is there a hunger to move to digital, or for the most part, I'm happy doing what I am right now, and digital is just a bit of a cream on top of it?
It's mixed. I think most marketers that I've worked with have realized that it's no longer an option. It's no longer something that you can choose to say it's good to have. It's almost a necessity. But in terms of enthusiasm, I would have liked to see more, because more often than not, there is like you said, the feeling that this is difficult or scary, or it could fail and reflect poorly on the marketing leaders who are leading it. So there's a lot of hesitation as well. And we hope over time that should reduce, and more inclination to attempt or try different solutions should grow.
What would be some of the top 3 questions or top questions or concerns you working with those leaders?
So the biggest concerns that we've seen is, how do we measure ROI? How do we prove that? How do I know that this will work before I invest in it, right? So there's a lot of, that's in a way, that's the reason why many of our clients come to us as consultants to say, how can you help us make this, foolproof, make this something that won't fail? So that's often one big thing. But there's also the issue of change within. There's a lot of resistance to say, is this going to change how we work and how my teams work? And is everyone willing to get on board with it? Otherwise, that can lead to a lot of resistance as well. So those are some few challenges that we see that we need to overcome.
On that point, if you look at businesses, sometimes they don't realize the wealth of data that they have. Right? So as we think about, let's go into marketing solutions, marketing technology, really you can start by looking inside, right? With the data that you have. I face that as well in the companies that I've worked with previously, even now. Right? What are some of your thoughts, or working with companies, especially now with Antsomi and before that, how would someone go about looking at primary data?
Okay, I think to look at this question, we have to look at within standpoint and external standpoint. Within is, what is the data available within your organizations? So I think every organization must treat this data as the primary data. And this data can be, if you are SME, you organize event, you organize offline workshop whatsoever. This could be a small little data sitting in an Excel file in one of your PC, right? That could be the data that you need to leverage. And if you start some sort of Shopify e-commerce facility, that data is also important to you, who has already transacted some deal with you, right? And on top of that, don't forget that if you really don't have a CRM, I urge all the organization to implement even a basic CRM for your organization. I think that is one of the crucial things. I mean, CRM has been there for 20 years, but even now, I speak to some listed company, I realize they don't even have a CRM, right? So that CRM piece, if you don't want to have complicated solution, go for it. So this will be the internal data that I think you need to look at it. However, if you look at the external data, there are also many external data that you should leverage, right? For example, marketing data available on Google and Facebook platform when you run ads, right? And if you are talking about selling stuff online, you may have your store in Lazada, Shopee, and all those data are available for you to use. And don't forget the analytics data that is available. Let's say you run a website and you have a Google Analytics data. Do you just leave it there, or you just go in to see what the consumer touch point is with your content and with your products? That is something very crucial. And let's don't forget about certain trending data that is available out there. Look at who are selling what products and what kind of products are popular, and that can actually help you to formulate your business strategy as well.
Bala, so that's an interesting point, right? So as we talk about, some of the concerns about some of the leaders out there, and then, some just pointed out that, this data is really a critical component about you thinking about moving on to your marketing stack or getting your MarTech solutions done. But in your view, in almost 30 years, you've seen the convergence of different tools coming in together, right? So now we talk about, like what Serm said, Google Analytics, that you've got to talk about your Facebook, and then internally, you're looking at your data pool. How do you see this coming together from your point of view over the last 1 year for clients?
I think increasingly, of course, clients are also more interested to see how the data can be used. I think a lot of things will have to go back to firstly getting the marketing plan right. I think once you get the marketing plan right, then you will be able to assess where can you use what MarTech solution. And there are many, many solutions out there. I think in 2011, there were like 150, and today, I think there are like 7,000 to 8,000 different MarTech solutions. So there's a lot. It's a crowded market out there. And not everything is suitable for everyone as well. And depending on where you are as a client, or if you're starting out as a smaller SME, you may not want to invest in paid MarTech tools, because there are also loads and loads of free MarTech tools out there covering the entire marketing journey that you may take. So I think there's very different ways that different clients will want to use MarTech, and some of them will do it in-house because they have the capabilities to do so, and some of them will outsource it to agencies or consultants who will be able to take that process out of them and do the work, and then provide them with insights that they can then act on. So in our business, I think in the last 1 year, we've seen a significant take up in terms of things like analytics, in terms of marketing solutions where we do demand forecasting, etc. And I think this will be the trend moving forward, simply because data is there, people are better at capturing it, and I think there's sufficient knowledge in the market on how to better use it. Having said that, I just read that from a Gartner's report that clients typically have been investing close to about 30% of their marketing budgets in MarTech solutions. But they're only using about 58% of the tool's capability, which means there's still a large gap there for them to fulfill as well, either through better learning or internal use, or getting someone else to help them, and that will help them improve on their effectiveness and efficiencies.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, because a lot of them, the marketing guys feel a need to move into digitalization, right? And the nearest thing that comes to mind straight away is marketing technology solutions, right? So then there's a whole hunt online, HubSpot, and all the rest that you want to look at. But Swathi, I just want to also circle back on what Bala said just now. You can use your existing platforms. For example, Microsoft Office has got various tools that you can pull out, right? Your current technology base, whatever that you're using, could be leveraged on, right? What do you use? Yeah, maybe upskilling and reskilling the internal team rather than going out and getting an agency to say, hey, sell me the best and the latest and the greatest.
No, absolutely, because like what Bala was saying, underutilization is one of the biggest problems in MarTech. And most, and it's not just SMEs, most clients that we work with as well, we see they don't even know the full set of features that their products that they're currently using are offering. So for example, if you're running ads on Facebook, there's so much data that Facebook as a platform itself offers for segmenting, for layering, for reporting. And that, if you have a team that's capable of just understanding and pulling out those insights, that itself can go a long way towards data-driven marketing, right? You don't have to necessarily get a separate tool that helps you to do segmentation and targeting. You don't have to layer it on. You can use what is already there. Same thing with email marketing. So even there are so many simpler, email marketing solutions that many SMEs can use. And even within that, you can track open rates, you can track individual clicks within the various elements of the email, and you can use dynamic content personalization. These words don't have to be like, oh, DCO is scary or it's a big deal. These features are already available. So in terms of resources, to your question, Raymond, making sure that your team internally understands fully the tools that you currently leverage, that could be the single big thing that would change utilization of current platforms that they're using. And that would drive a lot of value.
And how would we do that? Because the reality is that, a lot of us in corporate communications or marketing have learned what we know across our years, right? We don't usually go for refresher courses and the like, right?
True.
I'd be keen to understand, yeah.
I think when we invest in these tools, treat them like they are an employee as well. The tool must come with some KPIs, right? And that has to be formalized so that there's some level of going back to see whether it's working or it's not working, and what needs to be changed or who needs to be trained to do what.
Right. And
to add on to that. Sorry,
go ahead.
I just had a point to add to that. So even the platforms that you utilize, they often come with either a customer success manager or even training materials that are provided. Sometimes that maybe closes the gap, right? So Facebook, for example, has so many training, very simple video-based training that team members can learn, rather than investing in separate external training. Just the tool itself will provide quite a bit that can be leveraged.
So a lot of the people, when we talk about marketing technology, exactly what you were saying earlier on, you think that you need to hire a specialist skill set, right? Because reading data, understanding how to use the tools, they have to work together, right? If you don't have people who understand this, obviously there's underutilization of the tool. Your career, and you've done many things, across very many different agencies. How do you cross that for the SMEs? How do you cross that for small businesses as well, right?
So I think it's importantly that the SME standpoint, when you think about MarTech, you have to think about two perspectives, right? One is how do you use technology like this to help you to solve problem efficiently, right? So from an efficiency standpoint, you really need to use all this technology to help it. Secondly, it will help you to effectively generate the business outcome, right? So the efficiency and effectiveness standpoint is very important. And if you are talking about how SME should overcome this, I think they also need to hire the people with the right mindsets. And I always believe in people will be the key driver to help you to drive to the certain directions. And if you're talking about digital transformation per se, right? Digital transformation is a buzzword nowadays. And I was asked many times that what are the three keys to unlock the digital transformation? Even for small company or big company, it will be technology, it will be people, and it will be data. With these three keys to help you to unlock the opportunity for digital transformation, I think that opportunity will be happening for your organizations, definitely, regardless whether you are small or big.
So then, Bala, as you speak to your clients as well, obviously there are different levels of sophistication, right? And there's some guys who are still very much into print and radio, and it gives them the returns that they want. Is this a necessity? Do companies need to embrace digitalization of the marketing? or it really depends on which area of business you're at?
I think the level of sophistication differs by industry for sure, but I also think that everyone should embrace digital knowledge and platform. I think it's now a necessity, even on our agency side, where we don't have digital departments because everybody has to be digital. There needs to be some basic level of competency in knowledge of digital media and planning, and as well as understanding how data is used. So it's not. There may be industries where they can still continue to use traditional media, but even traditional media is transforming. Many traditional media are becoming addressable, which means you need to have, again, some level of digital competency. It's just that I think some industries are far ahead. The telcos, the travel industry is far ahead on usage of digital tools and MarTech solutions, and some industries are catching up.
And on that point, Swathi, what would be, for example, a baseline? Right? What would be one or two or three things that companies should be thinking about? Email or so data. Like, what should they be thinking about to begin that journey?
In terms of data, I think data is the starting point, pretty much, right? And the most valuable data any company can collect on its consumers would be if you can get their email address or their phone number. Anything that allows you to make that consumer, make them addressable, make sure you can reach them on digital channels, right? So what happens when those two data points particularly become collected and in a constructive, detailed way, what happens is you're able to target the consumers online. But you can do more than that. The platforms that we have right now have the ability to create what we call lookalike audiences. If I have a list of 100 consumers and I know, say, their email addresses, I can go to a Facebook or a Google and then say, can I find more people who are like these people that I'm listing out? And can I target them with ads? So your relevance of your advertising increases. Your ability to mine more insights from the consumers that you do have increases. So, but many companies are not making the effort to collect that data point, right? And that's sometimes the challenge. One simple example could be if you have a retail, let's say an F&B, and you provide, say, Wi-Fi within your premises, instead of giving like average Wi-Fi for free, if you could invest in sort of upgrading it, and then there are so many solutions out there which request a consumer for their email address before they can log into your Wi-Fi. That becomes a good value exchange for you to collect that data point, right? Or if you're a B2B and you create content, instead of just putting out the content there, use an email filter to say, give us your email address before you can download this document. And that becomes an opportunity. So that's one key thing that almost any SME can start out, and that will be a great starting point.
Right. So before we go on and take questions, so data, right, is something that we agree. This is really important. It forms the basis of any sort of strategy that we want to move forward to, right? But in most companies, there's also some silos, right? The marketing team has got its own work, the sales or the admin has little data going on. How do you suggest someone starts with this? Because a lot of this data really is being kept on Excel sheets for the most part, right? Exported into an email, whatever, and I'm going to send it out there. Am I tracking my opening rate? I'm going to use MailChimp. Simple stuff like that. But what do you suggest to be the baseline in terms of having, a good data repository?
Yeah, great questions, Raymond. I like how Swathi put the way that the two key identifier for data, which is someone email and someone phone numbers, because ultimately you need to have the touch point with all these customers in the futures. So if understanding this data is the baseline, the next will be how to aggregate all this data. I think for the last 10 to 15 years, many companies already start to collect data, but it's everywhere, right? It's sitting on Excel file, it's sitting on Google form, it's sitting in some Microsoft access data somewhere, or even there are 2,000 form in the inventory or storeroom or somewhere, right? So how do you integrate all this data by leveraging the key information about, for example, Serm? What is the Serm email address? What is the Serm mobile phone number? And use these two key identifier to connect all the data. So that is the first fundamental thing you need to do. And using simple system, whether it's CDP or whatnot, then you can create the 360-degree customer view. And you have a single customer view and understand your customer. So after you have 360-degree customer view, understanding the customer from a single customer view, then you can provide a lot of ranges of different services. Whether it's someone visit your website because you know some like what kind of product with you, you just deliver a personalized homepage to them. Or even you can extend that to an email, extend that to a instant messaging when they have a conversation with your sales support team, right? So all these touch points will be empowered because you know the customer with a 360-degree view. I think that is something very crucial for all the enterprise and company to focus next 3 to 5 years.
Bala, on that point, so we got a question from Rajvin, and this is for some free advice. What are some strategies to develop a good SME marketing plan, right? But just taking off what Serm said just now, it sounds a lot easier when Serm says it. But in practice, as we're going to develop that plan, there's so many other pressures. There's upon us. So, what would you think are some of the building blocks of a good SME marketing plan?
Yeah, so actually going back to what Serm was saying, in fact, we've been marketing analytics solutions for 4 years. And I have to say that in the earlier days, it's not that clients don't have the data, it is just disorganized. They have it in so many places, and nobody knew how to get all of those things together so that you can make sense of it. But it has definitely improved. I mean, things are a lot more organized now, and things like CDP, as what Serm said, is the way to go, given that cookies and all may not be the future. So there are definitely things being progressing. Going back to the SME situation, I think it's the same as any organization in that sense. I think you just need to work on a robust business plan, and you need to consider all the different factors that can affect your business. I think it's really important, and sometimes people don't spend enough time writing their business plan or their marketing plan and consider the risks and the opportunities in there. And that can sometimes derail you because you didn't think of a particular thing. So I think that rigor is really important before we even start going into MarTech and or any other kind of automation or anything. Get the basics right. That would be my advice.
So what are some of the risks that R3, as you're planning out the business plans for next year, from an inward R3 perspective, because you are inherently in that space, what are some of the risks that you guys are looking at for the next year?
You mean within our business?
Within your business.
Right. Well, as a consulting firm, our risks are more around the idea of how we can help our clients and what kind of different areas they would need a consulting point of view in. And for that, we see some aspects are clearly changing. E-commerce, for one, is become much more, it was always on the radar, but it's become much more critical for brands to get right. And that becomes a key area for us to look at. But some of the risks include the fact that, I'll make sure that we're prepared to help guide in this uncertain period, because right now the biggest problem is uncertainty. We know what 2020 was like, and it wasn't great. We don't really know what 2021 will look like, right? So that, I think, for most brands is the biggest challenge. How do you prepare for something? Would we recover? What are the business landscape expectations right now? And that's shaping a lot of risk management planning internally.
And would we say that upskilling and reskilling of our current workforce
Absolutely
is not an option? We just have to ensure that they get digitalized.
I think, that's a very critical point, actually, because upskilling, we think of it as like, it's something that it's a long-term thing. We don't see the immediacy of the need for it many times. But I think that's extremely crucial, because even when you invest in MarTech solutions, the biggest reason why it's under-leveraged is because the team doesn't know or doesn't have the right capabilities to leverage it, right? So for every dollar you're investing in technology and tools, you should also be investing equally in making sure that the resources that you have, the team that you have, can make best use of it. So if that comes in the form of training, then that's important. It also comes in the form of hiring with the right capabilities. Mm-hmm. So within R3, one thing we do is every quarter we interview CMOs from various different industries and ask them questions like, what are the capabilities you're looking for in your marketing team? So in the most recent edition that we released, the key thing they said was, strategic thinking. It's not specific to a particular area. It's about how we can have resources and team members who can think strategically about what is needed. The second thing was operating ad tech solutions like advertising technology, programmatic, things like that becomes very important, because that's a skill set that you have to learn in order to leverage these platforms.
Right. So, marketing has been there for yonks, right? You market yourself before you get married, and all of that. I wanna get your views about how does this now change for businesses next year? Yeah. So, I mean, we talked about the baseline. Say, we need to look at data. We need to look at Facebook perhaps, and then look at your email marketing. Yeah, all different things coming along here, right? The reality is that these guys have X amount of resources. They don't have people fully equipped perhaps to run the gamut of MarTech solutions. Can they afford Swathi and Bala? I don't know. They could, right? But assuming they can't, what is 2021 going to look like? What are the base minimum in terms of skill sets that a company should have? That's marketing.
Okay. Okay. So I mean, this conversation made me think about the New Year Eve of 2020. That was like almost 11 months. I mean, 11 months ago when I flew back from Japan to Malaysia, and we never know what happens in 2020. We never know, and we all were so excited welcoming the new year, and that uncertainty has been triggered by COVID, and everything happens, and the rest is history, and it's still going on, right? So the fundamental things that I really believe in is investing in your people. Investing in your people, make them to have a lifelong learning as the habits. I think Swathi touched a little bit of the topic just now. Let me share with you that recently I have a friend at his VP level working in the regional bank, Eashwer. He informed me that, shared with me that, hey, he just signed up a Wharton Business School analytics course for 3 months, and he finished it and got the certificate. And I asked, how much was it? He was like, 2005 USD. I said, is it all fully paid by you or company? And he said, it's paid by myself, investing myself. So I think that is really a good example that whether it's company or individual itself, himself or herself, you need to invest in learning. You need to invest in all these skill sets. Today, if you don't know about all this marketing technology, there are so many resources out there for you to find on the internet. Not only the company product page, or even the wiki of the information, or even there are so many YouTube teaching you how to do certain things, or even Coursera or some courses which are available. So I think fundamentally, whether you are SME owner or you are individual, you need to have a mindset of, I need to pick out the necessary skill to survive. For 2021, seriously, you need to master whatever skill you need to equip yourself in order to survive. We will know when the vaccine will come, seriously. If it's lucky, that could be Q4 of 2021, I don't know. Some news said that, but if we want to prepare ourselves, I think constant learning is the key to survive, whether it's for company, business, or individual.
Right. We've got another question here from Jessica. So the question is, any CRM systems to recommend, which is easy and lightweight to start with? But before I get the answers, I think that it cuts across any other system, right? The data, CRM, or whatever. I don't think we need to name a brand, but what would you look for, or what are some of the basics, if you get into a data system or CRM system, what are some of the things that you look at? Are you going for the cheapest, or how would you assess some of these tools? Bala, maybe you start.
Yeah, I think, all these tools, firstly needs to be, you need to have users in your system or whoever your agency is that are familiar with it, because there's just so many different tools. It must be measurable, and it must give sufficient insights that you can act on. System must be agile. You need to be able to make immediate decisions. Especially, I think one of the biggest issue we had this year is that a lot of our forecasting is completely off, because things change. Suddenly there's a lockdown, and then whatever plans that you have is not relevant anymore. So whatever system that gets invested into, whether it's a big system or a complicated system, needs to have basic things that allows you to be agile and move quickly and capitalize on opportunities and make changes.
Yep. For a bit. And I want to take another question as well, trying to get as much questions in. Swathi, maybe this is for you. So this is from Anonymous. My business just went digital 3 months ago, right? We were fully physical before that. But now the marketing team is feeling the gap of years of not collecting the data, right? So is there any way that they can close this gap, right? Because they had a very good business before this, but because the data wasn't collected and kept, how can they then get a leg up in their digital marketing? Do you have any thoughts around that?
Right. That's a very good question, because it does take the amount of time that it does to collect from the day you start. So that's a good time to leverage external data sources that might exist that you can tap into, as well as making sure that you're collecting data on every single consumer touch point that you now have. And many of them are much more immediately actionable. Let me give you an example. Say you have a website, right? You have a website CMS, a content management system, which manages the content on the website. It could be Wix, WordPress. There are so many out there which are available, right? And many of these already have options for analytics data collection. So you don't have to necessarily think of, this actually answers the previous question as well. You don't have to necessarily think, do I have to go out and get a separate analytics platform or solution? No, many times the platforms that you do have auxiliary features that you can tap into to do that. So make sure you're collecting data in every single touch point, not only at the point of sale, but at every time the consumer interacts with you online or offline, right? And meanwhile, while that's building up, one solution is to use external data. What would that look like? If you're running marketing campaigns and if you want to reach consumers who are like your potential targets, then platforms themselves, marketing platforms, like say your Google, already have a lot of data points that you can use to target without having to put in your own first-party data. Of course, your first-party data is likely to be more superior in terms of meeting your needs, but to fill that gap, you can use things like that to say, can I use Google's targeting data points and segmentation solutions while I'm building up my current data pool?
Right. We've got another question here from Rahi. Are there any resources out there to make sure our staff are well equipped with these skills, these new digital and marketing technology skills, if paid training aren't an option? Are there any free tools out there? We can answer it. Let's go digital. Coursera digital courses that MDEC is providing.
I think MDEC has a very good initiative about Coursera and get people to sign up and use Coursera to learn a lot of things. And seriously, I am also using some of the Coursera course to learn about machine learning, also of this new stuff.
Rahi, you need to go on it. Come to our website and have a look at it. There's a plethora of courses to go. I know Brickfields Asia College, Rajasingham also provides. Open Learning, also provides. I think there's a lot of tools out there.
Actually, Raymond, I want to add, the challenge is at the end of the day, how much time you have.
Very true, right? I have another question in here, and this is actually quite interesting, right? Now, CRM or marketing promotion, right? Because a lot of these budgets are now being spent on Facebook, on GDNs and all of that, right? How do we allocate this budget? Do we focus on building a CRM system, or do we push that forward because, we need the revenues? What are your thoughts on that, panelists? Maybe you start with Bala again first and then we go down.
Yeah, so I think the trend seems to be moving towards developing high-value audiences. The people who are, much more likely to buy your product than the general public. In fact, I think those days when we developed target audiences, they were broad. You advertise to a group of people and a small percentage of them will end up being your customer. But today we have better ways of defining the audiences. And in this sense, I think a CRM system works a lot better because, you have first party data. These guys are your supporters already. In fact, the income tax department sent me a birthday card wish on email saying that, stay well and healthy so that you can keep on contributing to develop the country. So,
true story, yeah.
To show your love to the country.
That's good use of CRM, because you can't always, you don't want a messaging from them to only collect money.
I say kudos to the government. Well done.
Exactly.
Well
I
done.
think that's quite well done.
You know,
and I thought,
well done.
it's just like, and they're doing this to a lot of people. I mean, I had other friends who said the same thing, who were quite pleasantly delighted by it. So if you ask me, I think both promotions and CRM have its place, and really depends on the situation and exactly what the objectives are to determine if it's better.
Swathi, your take?
If you ask me, I would say, see, when it comes to expenses in marketing, some are expenses, some are investments. When it comes to how you spend your money, if you spend your money on expenses, you might get some value at that point in time, but it's not an investment in your business. Investing in your consumer data is the true investment, because that way you are not only spending money to reach people on different marketing platforms, but you're spending money to build a data infrastructure that then makes reaching the same or different similar consumers happen at a lower cost. So I would agree with Bala to say that investing in your consumer data and managing that should be a bigger priority because of the value that it provides. And secondly, we're also seeing that trend going in all the various different marketing platforms, right? Many SMEs may not be thinking about this, but many of the marketing platforms and the data, the external data that you can leverage is still very much third-party data, and it's very much cookie-based.
Yeah.
So the value of that, both in terms of its quality, is somewhat limited, and the fact that it's disappearing very soon, with Google and Safari already phasing it out. So in terms of long-term thinking, investing in your consumer data should be the first. If you have a $1 to spend it on that, and then additionally we can do more on expenses.
And Serm, just add on to that.
I echo both Bala and Swathi on this, especially if you look back at last 5 years when data management platforms started to be emerged. People talk about third-party data and how we want to leverage on third-party data to reach out to more audiences. Those were the days we spent a lot of money on bringing traffic into your site. And after that, you realize maybe 10% of these people only spend with you, right? So what are you doing with these 10% of customer? You acquire them already, and how you retain them is the key, because they are the customer already have first time purchase with you. And we all know that 67% of the customer who already spend with you are likely to have a second transaction or third transaction at the return customer coming back to you. You should look into leveraging on your first party data, especially we have to welcome the post-cookie world happen after December 31st, 2021. We still have 13 months to go. After that, no more third-party data. So start today to formulate your first-party data strategy is very crucial for all the businesses.
To that point, so we have another question here that came in from Amanda. And this is something also I think about, right? The lead generation or the lead capture to scale up sales and business growth, most of the time, the leads that come back they are cold leads and non-quality leads, right? So, in my career as well, working with performance agencies, they guarantee me X amount of impressions, X amount of reach, then there's conversion inside. And that conversion really is also not a very high quality conversion, right? Because kita baling lah itu batu, mana boleh dapat, didapat lah, because our metrics as agencies will just do that. So this has been a perennial problem, right? I spend 20,000, I spend 30,000, get maybe about 50 leads. What's your take on that, Bala? How from an agency?
I think there's too much effort being put into efficiency rather than effectiveness. In terms of performance agencies trying to drive prices to the lowest possible bid, and that sometimes results in you not getting the right quality.
Right.
I think quality leads, although may come in a smaller number, can come from certain platforms which are more effective, and the goal should be to go after and find where those platforms are. To improve the effectiveness. Then you get quality leads, and you get people who are more likely to continue on with the journey of exploring the product.
And Swathi?
What I would say is from my experience, from what I've seen, many times when lead quality is low, it's because we have not differentiated between what is a, we're not collecting enough data to determine what is a high quality lead and what's a low quality lead, right? So if the number that we're looking at is only impressions, then if a certain platform is giving me twice the number of impressions for the same cost, there's a tendency to think, hey, that's cheaper, that's better, right? And your marketing budgets end up being optimized towards the cheaper platform if all you're measuring is visibility and impressions. But the moment you put in, let's say you add a pixel and then you make sure you measure if not conversion, at least metrics that are slightly below the funnel, consumer action, consumer engagement. If you measure that, then you have a data point to say, hey, consumers coming in from this channel are more likely to take steps that are further down the funnel, and this other channel is less effective. And therefore the leads, although they're higher in volume, they're lower in quality, right? So if lead quality is a key challenge, take a look at what data points are you collecting and how can you collect more such that you can use that to differentiate and optimize away from low quality lead sources.
So your take on this really important point. What's your take?
I echo what Swathi mentioned just now, especially when you look at the lead standpoint, how much you know about the leads, right? If you're looking at the quantity only, that's it, right? But if you look at the amount of data you collect related to all these leads, and how do you continually to engage with the leads is very important. How do you engage with them and give them a personalized experience to make the sales happen? Because ultimately, for some reason, the leads may not have transaction with you. But if the more you know about the leads, whether they have done something with your website, they have done something with your mobile apps, or they have done something with your mobile web or whatsoever touch point, the more data you collect and know about the lead, the more you can personalize the customer journey and engage with them and make the transaction happen. So getting the leads is just the starting point. Is how much you know about the leads and what you can do on top of the leads.
Right. So another question came in, and this is I think for the sake of smaller and macro businesses, micro businesses, for example, speakers should explain what generating leads mean and why they should be thinking about generating leads.
Okay, so generating leads, in my opinion, is getting a group of people or engaging a group of people who are more likely to buy the product. Actually, I want to go back to what the previous question as well in terms of quality leads and not. Sometimes I feel it's the communication itself that ends up driving leads that are not qualified, as in like the ads are so vague or are teasing in nature that makes a lot of people, click onto it and whatnot. But then in the end, they are not the right audience, and they're less interested. Sometimes I think the way the communication is crafted itself will enable the right people to engage in the ad and get in as a better qualified lead.
Right. Swathi?
To go back to the question that was asked, right? What does leads mean? I think Bala has nailed it. That's the definition. Any prospect for your new customer. So anything. How do you grow your business? I think that's where you need to look at it from the point of view of. And if you want to grow your business, who will you want to reach out to? Those people will be your leads. Those people will be people you'd want to get in touch with. So I think most businesses need to think about what is the best way to do that. Do we reach out cold? Do we entice them with something that they might be interested in so they become slightly warmer leads and they reach out to us? What is the strategy to do that? That's the basis of the marketing.
The basics don't change, do they? Right? You have to look for a quality product, and you have to ensure that your product is of a certain quality. You know your target audience. You know what their needs are, their changing needs are, and you develop your product accordingly. And then you layer it with a customer service or customer value proposition, right? And you follow them throughout that life cycle. It's just that marketing technology now adds in more efficiency or more effectiveness to what cannot be done because of this current environment, right? So where it was there before, it seems to have accelerated in its importance now for businesses. And especially so for SMEs and MSMEs, it is a more cost-effective tool, I would say, at some points, if you choose the right sort of tools, right? But that also comes in with the skill sets required to run this, whether it's your own internal team or whether you want to work with an agency to help put that into perspective for you, at least in the initial stages, while there's knowledge transfer to your team. And a lot of times we don't see that. We just treat an agency as an agency, and we don't take the opportunity to learn what they do. Could you just maybe walk us through that and see why are some of the clients not interested at all to learn from perhaps Serm? That can be quite...
Sorry, Raymond, I lost you for last 20 seconds. I missed your question.
Working with, say, Antsomi, for example, clients can learn a lot, right? But most of the time, they rather not, right? I'm paying you to do it lah, right? And that also goes then into a problem that when you measure at the end of the year, or you want to change agencies, or you want to get a new tool in, you don't have the capability to do what I right? Perhaps you can give us some advice or some of your experience about how you get your clients engaged with Antsomi from the get-go.
Okay. Thanks for your question. I think when we talk about first-party data, is the data you own from your first-party standpoint. That is actually a very good term to describe that you need to have your ownership, right? So it's regardless whether you work with Antsomi or agency or whatsoever technology. At the end of the day, look at the data from the data that you own. I think you need to have the mindset of you own all these informations. So from that standpoint, then you start to train your people and familiar with all the different tools available for you. I always like to mention something of this to all the business owners, that technology evolves by itself. Today, you are talking about technology A. Tomorrow, you are talking about technology B. The important thing is you need to make sure your people are familiar with all this technology. And based on the know-how and how to master all this, even tomorrow you change a different technology or whatnot, you are ready for tomorrow's, right? So with this, you need to equip your team with the right skill set, familiar with the marketing technology tools, and have the ownership and know how data can help the business with the right mindset. And all this will help you to welcome the new futures.
Just to add on to that, I think there's also a big question as to where the responsibility sits. Is it with the marketing team, or is it with the IT team, or some other team? And sometimes I feel that when the responsibility sits with marketing, then it's a bit more seamless, as in like it's part of their KPI and responsibility. But one advantage that I want to add to working with agencies and why clients work with agencies is that agencies work across a number of different categories or different clients. So I think the kind of learnings that they have at times tends to be broader and better in that sense, because they work with a range of different people and clients. Whereas when the function is in-house, then you're essentially just working within your category.
Right.
So, to add on what Bala mentions, when I deal with clients today, I actually deal with three category of key people when you talk about data. Chief Marketing Officer of the clients, Chief Data Officer of the client, Chief Technology Officer of the clients. And all these people are involved with the data we are talking about. And all of them are having the same goal to work together to drive the business growth for the company.
We've got 5 minutes more, and I want to get your thoughts about, as we talk about the beginning stages, right? What companies can do to build their marketing stack. Let's go a bit higher. Let's talk about the use of AI into marketing. Right? So as we collect the data, we move into MarTech solutions. What are your views about what's going to happen for next year? What's in this crystal ball? Will AI take a bigger role or not? What's going to come up with this? Bala?
I don't think there's going to be any major significant changes. I think there's a lot of new things that are coming into AI. Talking about it from an agency perspective, we are spending a lot of time in developing tools and systems that allows us to do automated creatives, because it's no longer creatives, as in like it's no longer enough to be able to have one ad that can talk to everyone. We need to have different ads. And in fact, we've been doing this for the last few years. It's just that now we have much more scale and the ability to generate thousands of different versions that can talk to different people in the way that they would see the benefit of the product. So I think that that's a key space for us in terms of how we are looking to expand next year.
Swathi?
I would definitely feel that AI is going to play a big role in how we do marketing. But the unfortunate downside is that sometimes when you talk about words like buzzwords like artificial intelligence, machine learning, people tend to slap it onto everything, and then it becomes it loses its meaning of what it really
AI
is.
going
But at the
in how we do marketing.
I think I'm hearing a lot of. Sorry. So what is the solution to, what is the right approach to looking at AI, I would say, is when you have valuable, clean, quality data, then you can leverage technology that can do with the data what a human may not be the best at doing, right? So that's where artificial intelligence, I think, will really play a role in MarTech. So when we have a lot of quality data, how can I use that, like what Bala said, how can I use the data points that I have and then use technology to slice and dice and create different versions of a creative? That's dynamic creative optimization. So artificial intelligence helps with that. When you look at CRM and various platforms that Serm's been talking about, is how do we look at the data and then say, find a micro segment of audience that will respond well? How do we do A/B testing and give them what the images or content that they will respond best to, and therefore optimize in a way that a human who's looking at the data may not see that pattern, may not choose to do it that way, right? So artificial intelligence will really be play a huge role in MarTech going forward, and it will help in the efficiency and enabling us to do things we were not able to do before without.
So,
AI is already everywhere. If today we are talking about all sort of marketing technology that we share with the audience just now, whether it's homepage personalization, email personalization, or even when you have experience to have conversation with chatbot, also of this. So ultimately, I think AI will play a very crucial role for giving a better personalization experience to consumer. So that should be what business working hard on it and to give a very good engagement experience with your customer. I always believe today, if you want to differentiate yourself from your competitors, is to provide a better customer experience compared to your competitors, to your consumer. And AI will definitely help you on that, especially to enhance your personalization experience with your consumer.
okay, we're going to close it off. Swathi, with you. One last piece of advice, perhaps. I wouldn't call it advice, but counsel, piece of counsel. All the SMEs here. If there's one thing they're thinking about right now, what should they be thinking about? Is it cost? Is it, a Rolls-Royce system? What is it they should be thinking about? One thing.
Right. If I were to say one thing, I would say, don't go for the shiny new thing, because there's always a tendency for brands to do that. Oh, this is new, this is innovative, this has technology, let's get it, right? Without the thinking process of how will we use it, will it be the right fit, etc. So don't go for the shiny new thing, but instead look at what fits within what you already have. Integration is something that's highly undervalued. So even big brands make this mistake. They say, oh, this is great. On its own, this is a fantastic piece of technology. But if it doesn't work with everything else that you already have, then it's not going to help you as much, right? So prioritizing integration and making sure we don't get fascinated with the shiny new thing and trying to get that would be the key things I would say to keep in mind.
So you're on the block.
I think two things I want to highlight. There are many technology up there for you to try and errors. Try it. There's no harm, because a lot of them start with some free starting tool for you to try. Experiment it, fail it. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. And with all these try and errors, really importantly is to develop your data strategy. Develop your data strategy for next 3 to 5 years will be very crucial for all the businesses in the future.
Bala, you want to close it off?
Yeah, so I feel that be brilliant at the base things that you do, get your plans correct. And then when you look at MarTech, consider, what impact it will bring to your business, whether people will use it, and you need everybody to use it. Otherwise, it's a poor investment. The adoption rate of the MarTech technology itself, and the ability to integrate that with whatever it is that you're doing. And of course, lastly, the investment, and not everybody is able to afford expensive tools, and experiment with the free tools that are available out there as a learning curve before you make bigger investments.
Guys, thank you very much for this. I have to say that this is the first of a series of 3. We'll be back again tomorrow and we'll continue on Thursday as well. So please do tune in. I must say a big thank you to Bala, Pomaleh, to Swathi, Eashwer, as well as to Serm for being here with me today, being here with MDEC here today as we try and advocate and evangelize about the use of digitalization for all business. So again, thank you to the panelists and thank you to Marketing Magazine for helping us to organize this. Have a great evening ahead, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Hey, Raymond, I think